Welcome, everybody. I can't believe it's been Sunday again. It feels like it was Sunday a day ago, or we traversed 40 years in the desert, one way or another. A week has gone by, and we are back here again together with our amazing Thrive community. It is Sunday, September. I can't even literally can't remember what day it is. 19. And I'm so excited to have everybody here. I'm so excited to hear the feedback that you guys had on the Yom Kippur call, as just giving us so much energy and inspiration to keep going and hold hands and rise together over the holiday season. Tonight's Sukkot topic is going to be led by the freaking phenomenal Coach Ayelet. Everybody, let's give her a round of applause. And we're going to be really active in the chat tonight, because this call is only as transformative as you guys take any uncomfortable action, which means sharing and participating. So please, right now, if you're going to play all out tonight, if you're going to really get value out of what Ayelet's saying, I want you to write in the chat, all in. All in. I'm all in tonight. I'm going to hear what she has to say. I'm going to play all in. I'm going for this. I want to have an amazing Sukkot. I want to have an incredible Chag. I am ready. So all in, everybody, let's put it in the chat. Yes, yes. And keep using the chat. If she says something that resonates, write it out, write it in, make this come alive for yourself. Ayelet, take it away.
Okay, all in, baby. Love that, Sorrel. Okay, I have no idea why I'm hoarse. I'm not someone that actually ever loses their voice, so I'm not sure why. So bear with me. If you can't hear me or understand me, then please just let me know. But I actually love how you started that all, Lily, with the idea of all in, because I really think that is a mindset shift that sometimes, for lack of better term, we are half-assing it, you know. Autumn always loves to say, like in some of her workouts, use your full ass, like just go all in. You cannot, if you are half in, you'll get half the results. If you're full in, you'll get the full results. Now, there's no time stamp on it. I think this goes so well. I don't know, by show of hands, who happens to have watched this month, September? I mean, we are at September 19th, and it's been up since the beginning of September. Who watched this month's topic in the Mindset membership on Played It? That's not a lot. That's not so many hands. Okay, great. Now I'm sure. It's okay. It's still up. You can still watch it. Now, I would love to assume, if I asked you all if you've seen the original Played It videos, show of hands. Does that get full show of hands? Thank you. Okay, so you might be wondering, how is this different? Like the theme of Played It that she did, and what is that? For God's sakes already, like how many times can we be saying the word Played It? And really, does that make a difference or not in being all in, half in, results, no results? Okay, so I'm going to touch on some points she brings up in the video, but I plead with you to watch it, because everybody gets different nuggets out of it, and different things speak to you on different levels. Every video, even when you go back and watch original videos, but the new content that comes out. So when you think about struggling, and we will keep on talking about this, and I cannot believe we are in August 2021, and I feel like so much of our conversation is just on repeat from August 2020. You know, it's like, who thought we'd be having the same conversation? But with all that being said, I really approach this Rosh Hashanah where, like, wow, some things are exactly the same, like we're having so many of the same conversations, yet so much has changed. So I want you to embrace that fact. Like the videos, the beginning videos can all be there. The base guidelines and principles of the program, that doesn't change. But then so much does change in life in our day-to-day, in our week-to-week, in our family, in work, and so many other things. So you can constantly be taking that same and applying it differently and using that to evoke more change and different results for yourself. The same exact thing. And that's one of the most important things about Plate It, is that it's so basic. In some ways, you need to ask yourself, are you actually still following Plate It? Does that work for you? I think in one of the time, in the areas where very often when we feel like we get stuck, and I've said this here before, and Alana has said it, like, don't get overconfident, don't get cocky, or you're never above the tracker. But I want to go into that less as a being like mean about it, I guess, if it sounds mean or not. But with Plate It, what does getting cocky mean? Like Alana said in the video, in the theme video, Plate It, she said, you want to be confident, not cocky. Confident means you are confident in your choices, that you have secured in your mind on autopilot what your meals, what your plate should look like, with no matter what else is going on, that you're confident in your choices of knowing what will work. That's then also not to say, you also want to give yourself the idea, if things are feeling mundane and boring, then bring some variety in. That's what all the recipes are there for. That's what our group is for. I don't know if you guys know, but there are women in our group that are creative in the kitchen. There are people who thought they weren't creative and became creative. You have a question about who has an idea about something, or what have you ever done with, insert a vegetable there, okay? Anything and everything. You sometimes want to bring in variety because that can spice things up for you and make it feel more like, oh, I'd like to try this Plate It. Plus, also, the recipes that are given on To Be are basically made into Plate It for you. So you get to experiment while also still feeling safe and confident that your choices can be working for you, okay? Then the idea of also of what does getting cocky mean? Okay, when we feel like sometimes we've hit a plateau, or we feel stuck, or we can't get really back into things or not. This part really, really spoke to me. We always talk about the consistency, right? The consistency builds on itself, and you want to build momentum and you know, the compound effect, okay? So you want to be consistent, but you also want to be patient, because you can't necessarily see results right away. But if you stay consistent, then those small building blocks will lead to big results. But she posed this question, which I don't know if anybody else who saw the video, or now I hope when you do watch the video, you catch it. She said, are you currently being consistent with your treats? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'm consistently treating. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so consistent. My breakfast is consistent, my lunch is consistent, my dinner and done is consistent, and so are those treats. You know, like, so whether you want to look at it as, do I feel entitled on Shabbos or Chag or this, whatever, but be honest, where are you showing more consistency? Okay, and I love the idea, if anybody has read her book and you've been confused about the idea of weight loss mode versus melting mode, how do I go? And there's a reason why Alana says weight loss mode is 6 to 8 weeks before you can get to melting mode. Okay, and the coaches and I discussed this before, and whoever's in my group, and I will share this in the Facebook group, but in my personal, like, my personal challenges, and I set out to my group, these 2 podcasts that I listen to today. I don't very often have long drives where I venture out. That's the only time I listen to podcasts. And I got to, whoever has not listened to Natalie Brown's podcast on weight loss, shoot, I forgot the name of the podcast, but it's Natalie Brown. I'll send out the link. They're literally 15-minute podcasts. If you listen to it on 1.5 speed, they're less than 15 minutes. And they're snippets. They're quick thoughts and ideas, and so relate to our mindset approach of To Be. And I listened to them today, and it really got me thinking. So I'm going to share those 2 podcasts that she shared. Actually, what I also love about it is if you see her podcast, if you go to it online, you can, weight loss success with Natalie Brown. Because you can download, you can't even see my video. Here. You can download a full transcript. And I did this now. For these 2 podcasts that I shared, I downloaded the transcripts because I want to be able to read and reread them over Chag. But I digress to what I was saying in terms of weight loss mode and melting mode, okay? So often I've heard from people that they're being so good, they're being on point, they have not digressed from plan, but they know if they don't just treat soon, then they're gonna binge or they're then gonna go overboard, okay? And then there's this whole idea of deprivation. Do you feel like you're depriving yourself or not? And one of the reasons why you really have to go through the weight loss mode into the melting mode, what are the main differences is first it's getting over the idea that change is easy or that this should be easy, okay? In one of these podcasts, I want you to think about this. Lily, type this into the chat, and whoever has a paper and pen next to them, I want you to write this. We are all on a weight loss journey, okay? Or some form of weight-related journey here. That's why we've all come together. And I think we're all pretty much aware that it's not always about the number, but the mindset and how we feel. But she said something in one of these podcasts that is so important. She said, our primary goal is not weight loss, okay? Yes, it's a goal we have, but we all know, like I've said this 1,000 times, we all know miserable, skinny people. Our goal is not just to be a lower number, okay? So our primary goal is not weight loss. Our primary goal is behavior change, because that weight loss will not stay off unless you have changed behavior, okay? So just think about that. Our primary goal is not weight loss, it's behavior change. And that's what 2B Mindset is here to teach. And that's what Alana says, why you have to really work on weight loss mode for 6 to 8 weeks before you get to, by the way, Natalie's without an H, if you look it up. Natalie Brown, there's no H in Natalie. Weight loss mode is when we're working on that behavior change. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Change is hard. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden saying no to things is gonna be easy, okay? And maintenance and multi-mode also doesn't all of a sudden turn it to easy. But what's the difference in weight loss mode? Actually try, but you're saying to yourself, it's worth it. Behavior change is worth it because that's what I want. It's not about that I have the cookie, not have the cookie. It's how it makes me feel afterwards, right? It's not, we don't magically stop liking the smell of fresh cookies out of the oven, okay? That's like silly. Like that's not real life, okay? Just like in one of these podcasts talks about real versus ideal. We all have this idea in our head of what ideal is. Our ideal is not, it's not realistic to think that every part of this journey is going to be fun and easy. And I am loving saying no to some things or not. But we have to flip it. What we do enjoy is the result in anything. And I know, I mean, maybe some of you will give an example for me that contradicts what I'm saying, but anything that you've accomplished or that you get satisfaction from or that you've tried for or gone through and feel some sense of pride, the whole journey wasn't easy and fun. Like for me, a perfect example is my daughter, one of my daughters who has learning disabilities, and she went into like a special class for 7th and 8th grade. And she came home and started saying how some of the work was so easy. And the teacher said to me, well, yeah, because I want to give them a sense of success. My daughter said to me, when it's so easy, getting 100 doesn't make me feel good. Like I didn't have to work for it. So we don't want to wake up tomorrow 50 pounds less. I know it's somewhere in our heads. I'm sure we've all had that thought. Can I just take a pill, wake up tomorrow and be X amount of pounds less? But then you miss the present. You miss the feeling of accomplishment. And you miss that behavior change that you are working towards so that it can continue. This is a small, it's not a race, okay? And when you think about it in terms of that, it becomes a beautiful thing to understand that this journey we get to be on, okay? You don't have to be here. You don't have to have a salad. You don't have to do anything, okay? Like Natalie, Ricky, Lily, I can't mute. Okay, she said in one of the podcasts that I'm going to share is that we're all adult humans. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay taxes. If you don't, there are millions of people or thousands of people who don't pay taxes. They then have to deal, I mean, they're doing something illegal and they might get caught. You don't have to pay your mortgage. You wanted a darn house. You get to live in that house. So you get to pay your mortgage. So you don't have to food prep. You get to. If you want the consequences, results, any way you want to look at it, nobody's forcing you to do anything. But the minute you change the way you speak to yourself, and change have to get to, make a list, and go through have to, should, okay? I should be doing more of this, or I should be meal prepping, or I should be eating X, Y, Z. Change, just like you have to change your have to get to, you have to change your should to want. Who's saying you should? Who's saying you should? Do you respect that source? You should. If you respect that source, then it's something you want to do. It's just a small change, a small shift that can make the biggest difference. That one word in each of those kinds of formats of what you're thinking, you have to do, you should be doing. Then tip of the iceberg is when we have our can't. Well, I can't eat that if I want to lose weight, or I can't handle what's going on now. So I'm not gonna, we can't. I mean, I don't know about you, I've said it before. I know if I turn to my household and been like, I can't do this anymore, or I can't handle it, or like it's, or I'm done. Who has said the words over the last 2 weeks? I'm done. Okay? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for everyone who's honest. I said it, and I definitely said it in not such a nice way, okay? And if we just take a moment, breathe a little bit, okay? The idea of can't, I can't handle this anymore, puts us in such a difficult mind space where we look at everything in such a negative way, as opposed to saying to ourselves, one way to look at it is, what am I willing? What am I willing to do? What am I willing to not do? What am I willing to give up to feel the way I want to feel? Am I willing to make fewer dishes? Am I willing to, or am I not willing? All these kinds of things, I really want you to be thinking about these kinds of things, because it changes so much of how we can then approach other things. And then one of the most important things I want you to remember, I really hope you all listen to this podcast that I'm going to send out. You know what, Lily, for now, because you got links to both those podcasts that I sent, can you put it in the chat? We'll put it in the Facebook group. But right now, who's ever on this call, just save it, copy it. Lily's going to post it into the chat. These 2 podcasts are great. But the idea of can't, I want you to change those things to, like, when I say that I can't eat that. That means somebody is forcing it upon you. On this program, I can't eat X, Y, Z. Like when somebody says to me, oh, you don't eat sugar. I'm like, I don't know, I never made, like I can't, like I never made that, nobody ever told me that. I'm choosing to. To be is all about what we add in. So when you're going into these cog meals, or even on a regular day, keep in mind, what comes first? What are you adding in? Don't concentrate on what you're saying to yourself you can't. And that's all you're going to be thinking about, right? If I tell you all right now, don't think about really cute baby elephants. Just don't do it. You can't think about how cute ears are, and then they're sitting next to their mommies, and they're, give me a break. When you tell yourself you can't do something, that's all you're thinking about. But if you decide, I don't, then you are identifying yourself, and you're making a decision for yourself. No program, no other person is forcing something upon you. okay? If you want to say to yourself, I don't eat cookies on Tuesday, you know, and you don't have to, then you made that choice. Nobody's telling you you can't, you know, or I don't eat bread at night. Then that's your choice. You want to have a bite of challah, you'll say whatever you want. Nobody's telling you you can't. My message here is not to tell you don't eat all those things that are being offered, but I do want you to remember the impression that seasonal foods have around us, and Yontif and Chag, and we have in our heads these are once in a lifetime opportunities. I'm pretty darn sure that some of the things that are going to be coming up over the next week are not once in a lifetime opportunities. And if you are making the food, you can make some of them a following week or time. We just have in our head, you know, like Alana gave an example about Halloween candy, and it's basically all a marketing ploy, you know? Everyone's like, oh my God, it's a once in a lifetime thing here and it's out for Halloween. Guess what? Those same candies were on the shelf 2 months ago, and they will be there the next month. Same thing with all the foods that we make. So don't get yourself wrapped up into that. I can't even, like, I took so many notes. I'm trying to like cover it all.
Yeah,
I want to
one thing I
open
want to
things up.
add for everybody while
Yeah.
you look up where you wanted to go next is that one of my favorite all-time quotes is my number one fear whenever we do any of the Y exercises is being trapped.
Mhm.
It's my number one fear. I don't want to feel trapped. I don't want to feel trapped in my body and my weight anymore. I don't want to feel trapped in financial situations. I don't want to feel trapped. I don't want to feel trapped by I can't. And so one of my favorite all-time quotes is, if I can't, then I must. If I think to myself, I can't have a good relationship with food, or I can't maintain this weight over the holiday, or I can't be relaxed and calm around food when all these things are being served, then I must. Because I can't are chains that I refuse anymore to tolerate. So if I think to myself, I can't have that, I must figure out either a system to have it, or I must come to terms that I actually do not want it. I either do not want it, or I have a system that works for me to have it. And those are the two options. Because if I can't, then I must. And that line has been very transformative to me in any area, especially like you said, in the stresses at home. If I feel like I can't speak to my husband right now, like I'm just so whatever, like, no, I must pull my shit together and figure out how to communicate. Like, I can't deal with this kid one more second. I must go take a break and pull and come back stronger and calmer and better. So
I love that. I love that. I love that. Just like using that to, you know, losing that to flip it. I want you to take away with the whole idea of the primary goal is not weight loss, but it's behavior change. When you're concentrating on the behavior changes, concentrating on the person that you're trying to be or that you want to be, you know, like that person. What is the behavior that person, my ideal self, you know, my best self, what's the behavior they want to be? One of the things that Natalie Brown that also says is the minute we start changing those words from have to get, from should to want, you know, to what am I willing to do, we all of a sudden start changing obligation to opportunity, right? When we say I have to or I should be doing, okay, we feel obligated. And that's never a good feeling. That feels like it's imposed upon us, you know, like a minute, and think of that, and things you do for your children or things you do for your parents. Like I know I spent many years of my lifetime feeling like, oh, I have all these obligations to my parents. So I finally changed it. Like, what do I want? No, I want to be a child that lives up to certain expectations or that makes my parents happy by doing certain things. And then I reflected that on myself too. I'm not obligated. I'm an adult. I can do whatever the heck I want and also be honest about all the consequences. And one of the biggest consequences at the end of the day is how I feel about myself. So instead of feeling the obligations with those obligatory words of have to, should, and can't, ask yourself, what opportunity do I have here? What opportunities am I creating for myself here?
And now let's move it into like, for all of you guys, take it please write in the chat, raise your hand. If you don't know how to raise your hand, go into like
What is
the
raise your
chat
hand?
and you can see where to raise your hand. You can go into reactions right here. You can raise your hand, you can raise your hand physically, but
Who has,
you do
what did something,
to
right,
be
what?
successful and feel how you want to feel, and what help can we be to you to like everything Ayala said? What are you telling yourself you can't that you want to do, and you maybe you don't know how? When we talk to clients, sometimes I talk about the gap. There's a gap between what I want to do and what I feel confident doing. Like Ayala said, Alana said, and like, it's not about cocky, it's I feel confident to plate it. What do you want that you don't feel confident in that we can help you with for Sukkot? Practical, real things, so that we take this mindset work and we get strategic. We get really like, just like you guys did for Yom Kippur, let's really have a better Sukkot this year. Ayala, I'll turn it over to you if you see anybody with a question, or
Yeah.
I can,
Anybody, question, comment, thought, reflecting on what has been with another week of coming, a worry, a concern, anything. I can keep on shooting words out, but
let's
I'm
be
not.
clear, something you want that you're not sure you can do, that you're not sure you have the skill to do, that you're not sure you have the mindset to do. What do you want for Sukkot for yourself? You guys said you were all in. Be all in right now. Don't waste this opportunity to be coached. Okay, go Ria. I want to avoid or seriously limit my sugar intake. Okay, so can we unmute you? Ayala, you know, you're leading here. She wants to do that. So Ria wants to reduce her sugar intake, and be clear now, reduce or eliminate. Which one do you actually want?
Okay, right. And I think the important part is, what are you willing to do or not do to achieve that?
I'm not sure anymore. Like, I've done this before. I've gone completely, totally limited it because I had gestational diabetes. I know how to do it. But I'm not sure what's better for me, to say, okay, one thing a day or not, or just stop it. So
don't you already know the answer to that? Are you successful when you do one thing a day?
If I'm completely mindful of it all the time, it's hard. But yes, I can be.
Well, can I ask you a question? You just talked about limiting your sugar or not having it. Why is that what you want? You said, I want to limit my sugar.
It's no good for me. I know I'm a candidate for type 2 diabetes. I know it makes me hotter. It's not good for me. And that's it. It's just not good.
So why is a little good?
Doing other things.
Is a little not damaging to you? Or you just don't think you could have none, so you're saying I'll have a little?
No, because I don't want to be, I'm afraid of doing the all or nothing. I'm not sure if that's good for me or as a role model to my kids, both.
So I have a question about that. So in terms of being a role model to your kids, I don't think challenging ourselves is necessarily being like the best, like, is that the model that we want to give for our kids, showing our kids that we're testing ourselves? So it doesn't mean that now you have to have 6 different choices of things that aren't necessarily what you want, so that your kids can hear or see you say no and struggle with that. So that's the first thing, in terms of how many things, how many opportunities are you giving yourself to succeed or struggle with this idea that you want. And if the idea is I struggle with diabetes, then it's not the flip, I can't have the sugar. It's I want to feel a certain way. I want to be a certain way, and not concentrating on the I can't have it. You can have, you've seen you can maybe have a little bit, but what does the little bit do for you? This is not an all or nothing idea. There's so much in between all and nothing. Right. People are always like, I'm an all or nothing person. There's so much in between there. So much. Mm-hmm. So I think.
Ayala, did you hear? I wanted her to everyone to hear what the brilliance of like what you said. I loved how you did that. I want to just really anchor that for everybody. Is she said, what are you showing your kids? Are you role modeling, I struggle with a future of diabetes and I'm taking control of my health? Or are you saying sugar is evil? You're not saying sugar is evil. You're saying I struggle with diabetes. What are you role modeling? You know, I'm taking, if it was your grandfather and he was diabetic and he was at risk for diabetes, and when he came for Shabbos, you didn't put out his favorite cookies, would you feel like you were setting a bad example for your children?
Right.
Bye, everybody. It's great.
That was brilliant, Mia.
Was that helpful, Ria?
Yeah. Thank you, Dawn.
She's coming down to me, okay?
Okay, so Lynn, you're not, okay. So Sorrel wrote into the chat, I want to stop associating Shabbat and Chag with an abundance or overplating of food. I eat the right things and I just load up my plate too high. Right, we've discussed that. I was talking about that in my previous live. Like there's eating healthy and eating healthy for weight loss, and you can overeat, you know, healthy food. So Sorrel can share, like talk us through some, you know, some of that.
So I made such a big leap in changing how I eat and keeping to the water first, veggies most. And I think that I said to myself at a certain point along the way, subconsciously, okay, but because you're doing that, you can feel the abundance in a different way. You can have more protein, you can have more vegetables, but I don't need to associate Shabbat with overeating, even if I'm eating the right food. So what am I really doing? And honestly, I'm still losing weight each Sunday. So it's not about that, but I want to fix my behavior.
I love that. I mean, Lily is, you said the word abundance, and Lily is like the queen of using that word in the best possible way. So, I mean, Lily, I can repeat you, or you can just take that in terms of
You can say whatever you want. You know, our relationship has been amazing, and we're always learning from each other as coaches. But Sorrel, I think it's asking yourself, what's the ideal abundance situation for Shabbos and Chag? When you say abundance, what, like she asked Ria, what do you really want? What do you want to feel abundant with? Like, if you already had all the food you needed, and what would you still want to be abundant with? Would you want to be abundant in certain relationships? Would you want to be abundant in your spirituality? Would you want to be abundant in your Torah learning? Would you want to be abundant in time you were spending with friends? Abundant in taking some time to clean your house? Like what would bring you more pleasure, more abundance that's unique to Shabbos versus overeating, which is truly available at every time?
Well, I think that when I plate during the week, it's like I'm on my own path, on my own journey. Just as we're talking, I'm talking out loud. And when I'm sitting around the table with family and friends, I see, you know, the quantity and the indulgence. And it's not that I feel deprived, but it's like you get caught up in the rhythm and the current of the atmosphere and the mood. And it's like takes a kind of conscious stepping back, which if you are stepping back, it's almost like you're removing yourself in a negative way from the mood of the meal.
So if I can take this part, because this is one of my biggest struggles of wanting the meal and the mood thereby the meal to last. I want the abundance of feeling close. How often during the week do you sit down for 2 hours with your family? But if all of a sudden after X amount of minutes you say, okay, let's clear, you just ruin the mood, kind of, right?
Yeah, I want to get it all off the table.
Right. So I think it's a huge thing to, you know, first of all, the awareness right away, just off the bat, the awareness of it is already huge. That you're already, replace the abundance with an abundance of healthier food is already an amazing first step. Then the awareness of, but I want to work on my mindset because it's so not about the food. During the week, I don't need those quantities. So like I said with Ria, there's a lot in between all and nothing. A lot in between that. You can have your journey of, you know, figuring that stuff out. And it might start with working on your quantities. It might start with what else can you fill the table with in terms of talk and that closeness. If it's the mood you want to continue, how would you think about separating that from the food? It's a beautiful question that you raise and a beautiful thought that you raise, the idea of abundance and with our family, and especially going into Chag, when it's going to be Chag and Shabbos and Chag. And what is that feeling of abundance we really want to be feeling?
And
And
so
not to-
Beth has something to add for you, Sorrel.
Oh, awesome.
So understanding everything that Lily and Ayala have said, but just in terms of practical
Yeah.
tips, when my family on Shabbat, we put all the food on the table as opposed to buffet. And I make sure to put the vegetables in front of me and the starch and the protein and everything else at the other end of the table. So if I sit there long enough and I think that I want more, I'm more likely to grab some of the vegetables which are sitting next to me, as opposed to needing to
Love it.
stand up to walk to the far end of the table or to interrupt the conversation to ask somebody to pass me the kugel. I'm not tempted to eat the kugel because it's far away. If I'm going
it.
to pick something, I'll pick at the string beans, which are sitting next to me. And
Love it.
so
I
that's
take
just,
it up a notch too, Beth, which I love what you said, is I actually bought a fancy tea set. And when it's coming towards dessert and people want to sit for a very long time, I have this gorgeous, like it's a full liter, and I make the huge tea, and I have this little china cup, and I just keep refilling and sipping, and it's like luxurious. And during the meal, just keep it going
1
in
minute.
that mindset. Ayala, you want to close us off because we got less than 1 minute?
Yeah, we have a
left.
minute left. I know this was a lot. I threw a lot at you, and I love them there. I mean, there are times when we can bounce things off each other and talk things through, but there was just so much going through my head that I really wanted to get off and share with you guys. And I'd love if you brought this back to, in our group, what you gained from this call, okay? But I want to end with thinking about that journey, that it doesn't all have to be, rose petals and rainbows. The journey and the feeling of success and accomplishment comes through work. Don't be afraid of the work, or don't be afraid that sometimes those things are hard. Embrace that. Sometimes you have to just embrace the suck. So, because it leads to the good and the beautiful. So I want you to really all have a wonderful Chag and just think about what you want, not what you should